off of this low. So that being said, we would expect that the bullish support should continue to maintain above this upward sloping blue line. So failure here already puts the market on edge beyond just a neutral trade. It makes it more of a bearish potential. So I would definitely use this upward sloping blue line as a line in the sand as far as direction, and even still trading bias above below $1.1070, and has this market pressuring this downward sloping support line, and then eventually trying to make a play for this low here. Any failure from this low and this market's back on edge, and it's definitely in a sideways to lower trade. So we have the dollar index component where it is starting to show either signs of weakness or show signs of a with that being said, if we have dollar weakness, typically right now is how things have been going with the euro US dollar, is that dollar weakness happens to benefit the euro US dollar to the upside. That may be why we've had these couple sessions of rallying over the past since Thursday, Friday, and then today's session. We've been breaking for 2 weeks. The dollar index has been not necessarily a terror, but have been pretty much bid, slow creeping higher, and was definitely putting these this and as well as some other markets under pressure. Now that being said, I think that if the dollar index truly is in a corrective phase lower or the beginning of a longer term bearish phase, that's very beneficial for the euro US dollar. And considering that Brexit is nothing more than a nightmare and it seems like the never ending story, I would just leave that out of the forecast right now, unless there's any major political things to come out in any given day, which could affect the pound and the euro perhaps in that trading zone. Otherwise, I would look to maintain a bullish posture right here, right now, and key off this last current swing low down at a buck 0986. Like I said, any trading below this upward sloping support line or this yellow pivot line here is most likely an indication that we are possibly going to continue this bearish trend lower versus having a neutral to higher trend. So that being said, I would look for those pivots in those areas. So let's take a look at the GBP USD real quick. All right, so for our British pound US dollar, as it is loading up, here we go. We're hovering below new highs. So I would say that this is a good chance to look for a breakout of those highs. That would mean trading above a buck 30. Now, as far as how much can it go, well, right now it's been in a very sideways trade for the last month now. So I would use caution. The ranges have been tight. Do I believe it's going to pop? Yeah, it very well could be. But there's a lot of uncertainty still with the pound US dollar. So as a bull, I would definitely be looking for a potential breach of resistance and targeting this 131 area. And unless you fall below this last swing low target here, I think that the market is in a definitely neutral to higher posture. So only a failure from there, which would be around the buck 27.75 level, then all bets are off and we're looking at a bearish reversal most likely. So right now we don't have any signals to look at, except for we can look at how the dollar index did end the week last week. As you can see how the dollar index was in a slump and definitely in a negative posture. So this market itself is in the bull market. Short term, it was definitely had a nice run up in the very beginning of November. But last week, even though we had currencies that were weaker versus the dollar index as a whole was just barely scraping the higher move highs and the resistance boundary here. And then as you can see, it fell back off. So because of that, if you look at how that is sloping there and turning lower, it's almost indicative of helping this euro US dollar trade that we were talking about here, with the rounding out of the bottom where the euro was trying to really slam and break. But the dollar index wasn't moving too much, so that euro wasn't falling apart. And then obviously we know that the dollar index reversed gears, and that gave lift, I believe, to the euro US dollar. And I think you're going to continue to see a little follow through. And if the Dixie does start to really collapse, excuse me, then it's really possible to have a run up to challenge this 111.81 area and then maybe a little bit higher. Now, the expectancy for any real true trend move for the euro US dollar is not that extreme, just for the mere fact is that the ranges have been very tight for the last few months, let alone last year. So the expectations of catching a really big rally, especially in lieu of a lot of things that are going on in Europe, I think there's a cap for any type of real rally. I don't think it's going to be excessive, but then I also don't think it's going to be very easy to beat down this market. So we may just maintain this range trade between $1.08 and $1.20 in the euro yet for another year or so, and just swing around in it. But right now, I think we're looking, especially if a weaker dollar index does prevail, to be the prevailing trend, then you're probably going to see the euro US dollar get a nice lift as we head into the last part of the fourth quarter and into a new year in 2020. So speaking of signals, we didn't have any really today, but we did have one in the Dixie from the monthly that has us bearish overall. And it's a high probable Japanese candlestick pattern. Ironically, the name of a book that I've written. It's on Amazon.com, available in paperback and Kindle versions. And with it, you can utilize the best buy and sell patterns used for over 400 years to give yourself a competitive edge against the markets in the futures, forex, options, stocks, all kinds of markets. So with that, please use caution, have a plan, and always have protection when have your trades on. Use stops, and definitely have good money management principles, and always have a good reason to have get into the trade to begin with. So with that being said, always like, follow, and share us here on Twitch and anywhere you find our content, please. And you can always find out what's new with us at www.forex-trading-unlocked